call this August 11th meeting of the York County Planning Commission to order. Is there any adjustments to the agenda other than the one we already got? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Moving on to last month's minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review? Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay, moving on to our public hearing for waiver 25-06. Lindsay Egner, on behalf of Buffalo 2 Investments LLC, is requesting a land development waiver for parking lot paving requirements on a parcel zoned rural industrial. The subject property is located at 3705 McConnell Highway in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and is identified as tax map number 507-0000041, Council District 5.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Kirshner. I'm with York County Zoning. I present the public hearing waiver request, as you just stated, for Carolina Power Washing Project. It's a waiver, as you just said, for the general parking area design standards, which is a request instead of doing paving, leaving the site as gravel. Here's the vicinity map. There's a subject parcel outlined in red, existing building on it, on McConnell's Highway, and on the corner of McConnell's Highway and Highway 324. And here's the zoning map. The property was recently, I think this year, rezoned to the zoning district of rural industrial for the purpose of this business, a power washing company, which is a trade service, taking over the vacant property that's been vacant for around 20 years. Here is the civil plan, or a part of the civil plan, the applicants have submitted. You can see the existing building, McConnell's Highway 324. We've had subsequent discussions. We had a meeting last week after the review of the preliminary civil plan, discussing the access on McConnell's Highway and the nature of that, and also improvements on the site in general. And part of those discussions, we kind of update that the access on McConnell's Highway, well, first of all, there was 2 curb cuts there. Those will be removed. The one curb cut, or the one that's right here, will be removed. The one curb cut will only be for emergency access. Will be kind of like a grass path, just for emergency vehicles can be able to go into the site, larger vehicles, and move in a forward direction. The actual access to the site will only be this existing access on Highway 324, and we've discussed different design improvements to try to bring the site up much as compliance as possible when you're dealing with the existing site. So that's that civil plan review. You can also see part of the applicant's request has to do with a existing septic field. This is the location with the septic field kind of draining towards the field to the north in the woods. And it's a kind of septic tank where there's existing gravel. And from the applicant's standpoint, they don't want to pave over top of that existing area. So we discussed how to best sort of design the area to have a minimum impact on the existing septic tank and field. The applicant's request is to keep the majority of site gravel parking and gravel drive aisles. The project is proposing to repair the existing building and update the site for use of Carolina Power Washing. There's an existing 5,000 square foot building that require a minimum of 10 parking spaces as per the code. The ADA spaces will, and access and accessible routes will be paved. The project will comply with York County and SCDOT standards for the driveway entrances. Again, one will be just like an emergency access path, but be grassed over. The other one will have some improvements, the one on 324, with like a paved apron and whatever SCDOT requires. We're working with them as far as the applicants, as far as getting the standards for SCDOT and what improvements to make for that one access, and how the emergency access only path will be noted. And like I said, the only real functioning access will be off of Highway 324. But industrial uses, and this is considered an industrial use, are not exempt from the paving requirement in the land development manual. That's why we're here. Here's a street view showing the existing building. And this access is already, I think it's already been kind of cut out. It's going to be removed. And then the gravel, kind of grass access, it's going to just be for emergency vehicles, so like a fire truck can pull straight through, is going to be right here, working with the SCDOT on that. And then the actual usable access, the approved access to the site will be here. And like I said, it will have to be some improvements here on the civil plans. The septic tank is in this kind of area where there's grass and kind of where the truck is, there's a septic tank there. And we've asked the applicants, and they may can speak to that, for not DHEC anymore, but DES, if they're okay with the current situation, the use as that septic tank, for the business in the upfit. So that's part of the review process as well. But the applicant wants kind of the answer on the paving, because that informs site design, and are trying to figure out the final site design for the project. The findings for the paving waiver request, the applicant can, the first finding is that the applicant can show that the provision of these regulations would cause unnecessary hardship because of topographical or other conditions. The applicant has stated that the septic tank and drain fields are in the existing parking lot area. The paving over these will result in a hardship if there are ever repairs needed. The current building is being used, or it currently already has existing gravel parking in that area. There's only a small number of parking spaces and employees, and it's really for employee parking. It's not like a retail space where a lot of customers come in there. So they believe that the gravel parking is appropriate for their use. And staff has agreed with this criteria. The second finding, the Planning Commission finds that a departure may be made without defeating the intent of the provision of this chapter. The applicant has stated the existing and proposed gravel parking and maneuvering areas are only for internal site circulation. The gravel surface will be traveled at low speeds and maintained to provide a stable surface. And of course, the ADA parking spaces will be paved and meet ADA requirements. And so staff has agreed with this finding. And so staff has recommended for the approval of the waiver from Code Section 154.027 to allow the project to use gravel surfacing for the standard parking spaces in the drive aisles where the handicap spaces will meet ADA standards. Are there any questions?
Is that existing concrete pad in front of the building?
Yeah.
So will that stay the same?
It is showing there. We have talked about grassing over, grassing over or kind of removing the gravel here, just so it's just grass for this emergency exit. But I believe they're going to keep, essentially that concrete there, but just keep it as a drive aisle. And we've discussed possibly, and that's kind of in the process of, if with DES or something like they want to move some parking spaces, maybe moving them over here or something like that. So that could be in flux a little bit, whatever the best layout is to have the least on where the septic field is. But the plan right now is just for this most to be basic grass right here, that concrete is existing, and then the parking off to the side here, then try to improve this entry drive and kind of clean that up.
And they're proposing asphalt at least up to the septic tank, right? Or not?
There will be a requirement for the SCDOT standard to have an apron, a paved apron, but not to pave up to here,
Okay.
where there's not
Just
already
the-
pavement.
Just the handicap spot, right?
Yeah, the handicap right here.
Okay.
Oh, you probably have might have a different close-up, but this is noted on the details, that this is a sidewalk, and this will be paved.
So there would be, excuse me, I'm sorry. So there would be how many ADA spaces?
Just one,
Just one?
yeah.
Can you
One
go-
van accessible up to 25 spaces is what the ADA requires.
And can you go I think it's one slide or two over the actual photo
Okay.
where you were showing the next one. Now, and you were showing us where does the septic tank start?
It is right around this where where the garage is, I
Okay.
believe, somewhere in here. And the septic lines, the field guys goes over where this grass is at. And there's grass there and gravel, kind of where it's already at. Obviously, it's not optimal, but we're trying to deal with existing site conditions. And again, we want that letter from Department of Environmental Services to make sure that the use of the septic tank in this condition is okay. But with staff working with the applicant on the design, we're looking at this, we didn't want to like bring more gravel or paving in this area where the existing septic field is, because then it gets into possibly causing more issues. So it's kind of design's kind of a compromise, and that's why I had the request here.
So the next question for me would be, if they were required to put asphalt or concrete or whatever down out there, can you tell me an idea of where that would start and end, or, you know, would it actually go all the way out into the septic field?
Wouldn't go necessarily to the field, but it would possibly go up in here, this area that's already, this existing gravel. Because you can kind of see that's, like the tank is in this area right here. And then the field goes this way.
Okay.
So it would just be, if they had to pave over this part, we're coming in here, and then where parking is, it would be just another question for DES, is that acceptable? Does that make it worse? So that's where the applicants kind of come in, instead of changing around the site and possibly having to change around the septic tank, which they could speak to more with they've requested the waiver to just kind of keep it, at least, you know, this part, and basically this as it is, with the understanding that they are, you know, working to improve the site in other means with landscaping. I didn't pull the landscaping plan, but there's a landscaping plan. Redesign this driveway a little bit to kind of make it more defined, and also closing off the accesses to McConnell's Highway, because those don't meet spacings as well, so.
So at minimum, we'll have one space paved? And
Yeah.
that's about it?
The ADA space will be paid, and the, I think there's
That's the
existing
minimum.
sidewalk there.
They may pave additional space or two or whatever.
Yes, in the future, they could pave it. I guess the question would be that, at this point, I don't know if they would pave over top of the septic tank.
No.
But the rest
Not
of it
saying that.
could be, so it would be like, part of it could be paved, but then, like I said, the applicant has requested, just kind of leave it as is with the other improvements they're proposing.
Any additional questions?
As far as the traffic flow in and out, we're not restricting right in, right out, or anything because of the proximity
No,
to the
there,
intersection?
I mean, this project, I believe it did would do a TIA form, but not a TIA. The traffic is very limited, I mean, based on their employees, like I said, the code's only requiring 10 parking spaces.
Okay.
So it is, we consider a very small site, and that's one reason that staff is, because it's a reuse of a site, is open to at least the possibility of getting the waiver, because obviously existing site, and they're trying to make improvements, but have existing conditions. And so we're trying to work with them on landscaping and parking layout on the gravel.
It looks like McConnell's, there's only one, it's just in, right? There's no out, it's just in, entrance there. No, I'm talking about on the proposed.
Yeah, and that is not, the plan is not to be a full use. It's
Oh, okay.
planned to be basically grass, and something where, I think for fire services, there
Right.
there actually was a fire at the building, there's a whole history that the applicant could probably speak more to, but that a fire truck can pull the whole way through and get out to McConnell's, but it's not supposed to be the active drive, and that's part of the design we talked about in our meetings, about how to make that where It's literally only for, kind of like a fire lane or something like that, drive access, but it is there and it is something they spoke with the SEDOT about. So again, trying to make improvements to existing site where there was 3 curb cuts, none of them met code standards, so. But now it's be down to 1 active curb cut on 324.
Yeah, turning radius for a fire truck, it'd be going in there and having to
Right.
pull.
And that was
reverse back
that
out.
was a concern on completely cutting off McConnell's highways, because then you're acting in possibly putting another like T turnaround or something at that for a truck. You're adding more gravel to the site or more paving or whatever.
Okay.
Are there additional questions? And this is a public hearing, correct?
Mhm.
So at this time, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak for or against the waiver, please come to the podium and tell us your name and your address, please.
Good afternoon. Ray Egner, 4048 Lauren Elizabeth Drive, Rock Hill. My wife and I are the current owners. We purchased it back in January, went through the rezoning and all that. Everything Jeff said is accurate. The only couple things I can add for you. There was a fire years ago. Septic tank was either crushed or destroyed. We're not totally sure the history on that. So either got a new septic tank or some completely new septic system. We're not totally sure on that. Our civil engineer has, his property's been in his family for a while, like way back. So he's been able to give us a lot of the history of it. The pictures he had pulled up, just like you said, where that box truck is, it's kind of where the septic and the drain fields, that's one of our main concerns. The other is the cost of it. Our general contractor's given us approximate cost of about $70,000 to $80,000 to pave what's existing that's gravel. Being a full-time firefighter, I kind of know how it would work if there was, hopefully never a fire there again, but if there is, that's why we were really adamant about trying to keep that, that one drive off McConnell's in place for emergency use only. Come in there and go straight, that's all grass currently, so the idea would be, since we're in that part of the county, we don't have fire hydrants. They'd have to set up a tanker shuttle and a drop tank. The way it works is, police would get there first, coming off 324, and probably block the driveway. So you limit fire trucks coming in that way, but that way you can have two sides of access for fire trucks, for a water shuttle, knowing they have to stay about 1.5 times the height of the building away from it in case of collapse. So that's just kind of the idea with that. We eventually would like to pave the gravel, but here we are in August, trying to get this project started, and the costs just kind of keep increasing. But that's part of our long-term plan. But again, we're trying to get in there, get the landscaping done, dress it up, get it back to so it's not an eyesore for the community, and that's part of our kind of like 4 or 5 year plan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against? Again, if you'll just state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name's Tim Heeline. My address is 1830 Anns Mill Highway, Rock Hill. I didn't come here tonight to talk about this, but I just saw this was up here, and I worked with these folks. I was involved in selling the building. And they've been great to work with. They run a top-notch operation, and what they're going to do there, I really like it. And he's right about the septic tank. When that building caught on fire, I was told that the water truck or whatever truck, fire truck, drove and parked on that tank and crushed it. And to move that system would be very costly because it's not DHEC anymore, but they've changed, God hasn't changed what's in the earth for soils, for perking. But DHEC, they've changed their regulations on what they say are suitable soils. And before, that was just probably a single bathroom facility, and I think that's probably, I don't know what you're doing, if you're doing 1 or 2 bathrooms, but it's not going to get hardly any use. And with what they do, I think it's I think it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And it's good use for that building.
Is there anyone else? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? There's been a motion and a second. If not, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on. I'm sorry? Let's see, new business. Our first item of new business tonight is Tischler Bice is here to provide a status report to the Planning Commission on the update to the Clover School District Public Education Facilities CIP and related study to continue the collection of new development impact fees.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Mark Hopkins, and I'm Chief Operations Officer of Clover School District. And before Carson presents the numbers and the new impact fee update, I just wanted to kind of give a picture of where we are with our capital building program that's based on the CIP that was developed in 2020. We could get, my bad, I'm sorry. We began this process back in 2018 due to enrollment growth, and there's a couple of ways that we've looked at enrollment growth. We've kept track of the new developments. Diane has kept us appraised of what's going on in York County and within the town of Clover. You can see that there have been 322 new approved homes, with 195 remaining to be permitted in the town, and over 3,000 in the county, with a little over 2,000 still remaining to be approved. Another way we look at those enrollment projections are historical projections, based year-on-year growth. And we have found through many of the studies that we've done that the historical growth has been the most consistent through studies with Cumming Management, Leitner Management Group, and Dale Holden and Associates. Just to give you an example, in 2020, the historical prediction for this past school year was 9,044 students, and we ended the year with 9,033. In the interim, we've been addressing that growth by adding classrooms at our middle schools and expanding the footprint inside of use of the elementary schools. The eastern elementary schools are nearing capacity at this time. In 2021, we had a failed bond. We reassessed that bond and went back to the public in 2022. That bond passed for $156 million. The district did add $17 million for furniture, fixtures, and equipment above that to relieve that bond amount a little bit. And for the elementary school, the board has exercised their 8% borrowing power to pay for a majority of that, as well as some capital funds. We have broken ground on both of those schools in January of '24 with the high school and October of '24 with the elementary school. One thing that has changed is the construction costs have risen significantly since we began this process, and even since we began construction as we got into contract. The construction costs versus per project cost. I wanted to make this distinction because Mr. Bice talks about project cost in the study. Construction cost is the amount that costs to construct the building, the site work, and everything within 5 feet of that perimeter of the building. So we're talking about the brick and mortar and the work that goes in that. Lake Wally High School construction cost is about $356 a square foot. And for Liberty Hill Elementary is about $343 a square foot. I wanted to make this distinction because our initial estimates going into 2021 were about $250 a square foot for construction. So those costs have risen significantly over the past several years. And we've been able to manage that by leveraging our 8% bond limit and still maintaining the 46 mil tax debt service for tax debt service that we promised with that second bond. Just wanted to also say that our desire for this review of this impact fee was to validate the original fee, because it's based on the capital improvement program in which we are building currently, and it was developed appropriately for that. So for those projects underway, So our board, if warranted, did not seek any increase in the allowable fee, but we want to say that we feel like the original fee would certainly be validated by this report, and if an increase is warranted by the council, we would not want to go above the original allowable fee. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to Mr. Bice to give you the details of the updated report.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Carson Bice with Tischler Bice. I believe Ben Griffin from my firm was here a few months ago with the Fort Mill School District fee, so some of what I'm going to share with you, you've probably already heard before. As you know, we do specialize in impact fees and fiscal and economic impact analysis, and we've done more impact fee work in the state of South Carolina than any firm, and we've, as you probably are aware, we've done Fort Mills School District, Clover School District, as well as York School District 1 within York County. Just to refresh your memory, impact fees are a one-time payment intended to offset new growth's impact on capital infrastructure systems. In this case, we're talking about the school district. We can't use those fees for operations or maintenance or infrastructure replacement. Essentially, by adopting the fee, or by the county adopting the fee on behalf of the school district, basically a contract with the development community that by collecting this money, we're going to provide the capacity for which you will be entitled based on the projected demand. And as part of the study, we basically have to show or meet three prongs of a legal test. One, we have to show nexus or need. So through the report, we show that the district has experienced increased enrollment. That increase is likely to continue. In order to accommodate these students, we're going to have to provide additional capacity. We have to show benefit. We show benefit in two ways. One is through the timing of the expenditure, and the Impact Fee Act in South Carolina is very clear about that, which I'll go into in a second. Then the second part of benefit is geographic. So in very large school districts that may be contiguous with the county, a lot of times we have to get involved with establishing collection and expenditure zones. The idea here being that, for instance, in Lancaster County, the fee is only in the north because there's no growth in the south, and so by collecting a fee in the south, you would have to be providing capacity in the south, and that's certainly not the case. Third thing is we have to show proportionality, and that's why the school fees or proposed school fees are done by size or by type of house, so a single-family house versus a multifamily house, because both of those types of units generate different amounts of elementary, middle, and high school age children. As you're probably aware, one of the things we have to guard against as part of the fee calculation is the idea of double payments. So we have to include credits within the methodology. The first credit is not part of, or is not, for lack of a better term, baked into the analysis. It's more governed or implemented through the resolution that the county passes. So for instance, if land is included in an impact fee calculation and a developer, as part of their site, donates land for a school building, well, we have to make sure that they're not paying twice, once through that dedication and again through the fee, and that's addressed through a development agreement. Now, the other two types of credits are baked into the methodology, and again, it's to avoid double payment, once through the impact fee, and then again through a future stream of revenue. And in this case, new housing units that locate within Clover School District will be generating property tax that's used to retire the principal payments on existing debt issuances that the district has. And so we have a debt service credit within the methodology itself. I did mention the Impact Fee Act. There's a few things on here that are worth noting. One is, that, as I mentioned, the timing of the expenditure. The Impact Fee Act in South Carolina states that you must spend the money within 3 years of the date of the planned capital expenditure. That doesn't mean that if I pay an impact fee today, that you have 3 years to spend it. It means that you're anticipating opening a school, let's say in 2027, you need to have spent that money by 2030, okay? We also are required, as part of the act, to estimate the effect of the imposed fee on affordable housing in the district. As we've talked to you about before, there's not much guidance given in the statute. It just says you have to do this analysis. It doesn't set forth any criteria, doesn't set forth any remedies. If we find that it does have an impact, it just says you have to analyze the effect on affordable housing. Now, in terms of the Clover School District fee, a little bit of history. It was originally adopted in 2020. You may remember that the single-family fee was adopted at 26.6% of the maximum allowable rate that we calculated in 2020. So it was adopted at $4,000 when the maximum allowable was $15,035. You may also remember that around the same time, the county adopted Fort Mills impact fee at around $19,500. So you can say that Clover School District was shortchanged quite a bit in 2020. The fee components this go around are for elementary and high school class space. We are not including middle schools because middle school capacity is not part of the building program. That is going to be taken care of through renovation to an existing building. There is a component for land for future elementary schools. District does not anticipate needing additional land for high school capacity, so that is not part of the fee. And we also have a fee for the district-funded or component for the district-funded activity buses. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a credit payment for future principal payments on debt issuances. As part of the first step of the analysis, we have to estimate the number of public school-age children generated by different types of housing units. To do this, we use the U.S. Census Bureau public use microsample data for, they're called PUMA areas, public use microsample areas. And so we calibrate that to the school district's enrollment. So when we get the raw student generation rates and multiply those by the number of houses that exist in the district today, the enrollment that we calculate would be higher than the actual enrollment that you see today in Clover School District. And the reason for that is you have some school-age children that are going to private schools or maybe home schools. So we calibrate it to the existing enrollment in order to get these rates. And as you can see here, a single-family unit is, the estimate is 0.51 students per unit. A multifamily is 0.276 students per unit, and a mobile home is 0.408 students. So the way to think about that is for every 100 new single-family units, you would expect about 51 new school students out of that subdivision. This shows the projected enrollment. This is based on the Leitner Management Group's data or their projections from years 1 to 10. We needed to get a projection from years 11 to 20 in order to do the debt service credit. So what we did is we took that 10-year average annual increase and extrapolated that through years 11 through 20 to get our projected change in enrollment. We're going to focus on the 10-year change, which is estimated to be about 1,750 additional school students. This is the capital improvement plan for which the impact fees were based. It includes the Liberty Hill Elementary School, which has a capacity of 900 additional students. Anticipated occupancy is in 2026. As I mentioned, the Roosevelt Middle School is an addition and a conversion. It's not part of the impact fee calculation. And then the Lake Wiley High School is anticipated to open in 2026 with a capacity of 2,200 additional students. And future land purchases, as I mentioned, we do anticipate that over the next 10 years for elementary capacity. School cost factors are based on the numbers that Mr. Hopkins presented. The Liberty Hill Elementary School is projected to have a cost per square foot of $450 compared to $474 for Lake Wiley High School. And it is important to note that does not include the addition of the stadium that I believe opens in 2029. And then we have a weighted average cost per acre for future land that's based on these 4 previous land purchases. It's important to note that we are not inflating those original costs to $2026. So this is a very conservative land cost estimate, and that's at $24,602. This shows the debt credit calculation. So we look at the projected principal payments on these different issuances, compare that to the projected enrollment to get a credit per student, and then we get a net present value of those payments based on the average bond rate. That value is, or that net present value is about $12,639 per student. So this table here, as we work our way down the table on top, it basically summarizes what we just spoke about. You see those student generation rates up top. They are multiplied by the different level of service standards and cost factors. So there's a building construction cost per student at the elementary level of $62,518. At the high school level, it's $71,321. Then there's a cost per acre or cost per student for land only at the elementary school level, that's $1,191. Then there's the activity bus cost per student of $336 for both school levels. And so if we look at that first green line on the table, that's our gross capital cost per student. From that, we then deduct that credit for future principal payments, so we get a net local cost per student of $51,405 at the elementary school level and $59,018 at the high school level. And so when we look at the bottom table, and the focus is on the area outlined in red, which is the green column, the maximum allowable fee that we recommended out of this, or that could be adopted out of this report, is $21,387 for a single-family unit, $10,239 for a multifamily unit, and $16,125 for a mobile home unit. That compares to the maximum allowable fees that we calculated in 2020, which were $15,035 for single family, $74.30 for a multifamily unit, and $98.42 for a mobile home unit. And when we compare that to the actual adopted fee, that difference is $17,387 for a single-family unit and $8,263 for a multifamily unit, and then $13,507 for a mobile home unit. And finally, as part of our affordable housing analysis, we've looked at what the maximum allowable fee for a single-family home is at $21,387, and what that does to a mortgage. Doesn't matter what the mortgage amount is, this is what the payment would be on top of whatever purchase price you had. But at various interest rates, that payment or that impact fee financed over a 30-year would be $84.50 a month at a 2.5% interest rate, and could range up to $156.93 at an 8% interest rate. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
John, do you have any questions? Did you have some questions?
I have a question.
Did you have?
Yeah. Mr. Bice, how are you today?
Good.
Thank you for coming. Two questions. Number one, on the cost per square foot, is that actual construction of a building, or is that the total cost for the site divided by the number of square feet?
I'll defer to Mark to that. I believe it. The projected project cost, which is what the first two, if you go back, is the total cost of construction plus the soft costs that are involved.
Right.
Your engineering, your contingencies, all that stuff. His is based, the number he gives is based on the project cost. What I shared with you was
The construction cost, okay,
Point about the rise in construction cost over time.
okay. And second was on the affordability study. On the first go-around, there was a rather significant analysis, not in this study, but back in 2020, that took average incomes and looked at some of the costs and how these numbers affected the affordability. Is that going to be part of what you're presenting, or?
No, in simple terms. And the
Okay.
reason being, and it's actually, it's as a result of these meetings in York County where we've sort of changed the approach, because it was the way we did it, and the way, I'll go back in time, the way we did it was the same methodology that was used in the very first impact fee study in York County, which was for the town of Fort Mill.
Okay.
So the initial thought was, one, that's a reasonable method, and the other thing you want to use like data, right? You don't want to be pulling numbers from different areas. And so this method, where it was heavily reliant on the census data, it was sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't approach, because if you look at the census data and you look at the median incomes and the median house price, some people were very critical about the fact that, I'm just going to make up numbers here. Let's just say that in Fort Mill, Fort Mill School District, let's just say the median housing value was $300,000 in that census. And people would say, show me what house you can buy in Fort Mill for $300,000, right? We know that, but if we know that the average house is selling for 400, or for, let's say, $600,000 in Fort Mill, we don't have a reliable source of data for what is the income of those folks buying. Now, we can back into what the minimum is. That still doesn't answer the question of, one, it being one-to-one data, and two, what is the housing burden if we're just looking at the minimum, right? So we just thought this was a much better way to project it because the market takes care of itself, right? You know, if you can afford the house, you know, and the other thing is in some of the districts or some of the places we worked in South Carolina, if you use the census data, the ratios were off to begin with, meaning that, you know, in one community, people were, according to the census, you were spending 42% of your income on housing when sort of the mortgage lending says 33%. So it wasn't a real reliable
That was
way
the
to
case
do
in,
it.
that was the case in Clover.
Right, so it hasn't been very reliable, so we've talked to a lot of different clients and other colleagues, and we've said, you know, the real question is, well, what does this do to the price of a house, right? In terms of, you make assumptions about what the interest rate is, how much, you know, what percentage you're gonna put down and how much you're gonna finance. The real cost is, or the real issue is, what is this, how does this raise my monthly cost, right? So that is the route we have chosen to go with the most recent studies.
So just to clarify, the numbers that you had in your last chart, where you had the full 21,000, you calculated the interest on the full 21?
Yes.
Or did you assume that there was a down payment on
No,
that as
so,
well?
yeah, so you can see here that the loan
Yeah, I didn't
term
do the math. We just
is
got it.
30 years, and we do, I believe we assume a 5% down payment. But I
Okay.
can verify that.
Yeah, I didn't do, we just got this
Yeah.
before the meeting, so I didn't do the math, but. Now, you can add one more line to that, and that is what the cost is over 30 years.
Sure.
And at 2.5%, you're basically doubling. At 8 point somewhat, it's almost $80,000 that it's gonna cost somebody for
Right.
an impact fee to their wallet.
I certainly agree with that,
Over
but
that
you can
period of
also say
time.
the same for all the building permit fees and everything else that gets passed on and
Sure.
part of the cost of the house. You're exactly right.
Thank you. Appreciate those answers.
So I noticed on the one table, the cost per square foot for, yeah, right there. So that included engineering
FF&E.
and other stuff. Okay. What if you see an overrun? And, and these costs are these costs based on the overrun of, you know, like, say, you say, okay, something's gonna cost $100,000, and now it costs 120. Is the 120 used in the cost per square foot?
I believe Mr. Hopkins can correct me if I misstate here. I believe there is some contingency in there, but if you're asking whether there's a clawback provision, meaning that if the costs come in at $500 a square foot, we don't automatically get to just change the impact fee to recoup that extra $26 that we missed. But I think in most construction programs we see for schools, there is a contingency for those unexpected things, but as a percentage of the overall budget, they're somewhat de minimis.
Yeah, most projects, it's like 10% contingency. When you get to the bid level. The only thing I'm getting at is if it raises above this level or this, or your initial estimate was less. I don't know what, were these the final, were these the bid construction costs or what? Were these the bidded construction costs or is this what you got? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
My only additional question is my slight confusion with the fact that there was a bond that was issued to build this high school. And there was a 5% escalation, 10% contingency, and the proposed budget at the time that the bond was proposed at 146 million was 158 million, including furniture and 4.5% for technology. So somewhere, this has gone awry. Do we know exactly where that is, Mr. Hopkins?
The 156 million included the high school.
Yes.
That did not include the FF&E that I
Okay.
mentioned. That was what district provided in addition to that.
Okay.
And if you look at when we began construction in January of 2024, we passed the bond in '22, so it was 2 years from the time that we passed that bond, based on the estimates we had at that time, till the time we were permitted to begin construction. And in that time, those costs also began to rise. So
Understood.
that's part of that discrepancy right there.
Yeah, I guess my question is, we talked about a credit on the impact fee for any expenditures that were made or any funding made from a different source. So you've got 156 million that came out of the bond. You can't use any of the monies from the impact fee for that portion, is my understanding. So what is the impact fee to be used for? The overage?
To make up that deficit, yes. Impact
Okay.
fees are to serve new student population, and that was with the building of new schools, activity buses, et cetera. And so that's what that's based on.
Okay, so it is for, it's
Correct.
not for the base that was approved.
Well,
It's-
also in that's also part of the whole cost. The original fee of $4,000, as Mr. Bice mentioned, was 26% of the original allowable fee. Had we been able to incur that allowable fee, we would probably be in pretty good shape. So this 5-year review, it was, in our view, was to validate that original fee.
Okay.
Not to raise a fee beyond what that was.
So are you saying you're going to keep it, you're proposing to keep it at 15,000, or are you
The
proposing
district,
at 21?
the district believed that that was appropriate for the original building plan upon
Okay.
which this was predicated, and the original capital improvement plan that we've done. These new numbers are really illustrating the changes since then.
Okay,
But we are already in progress with this building plan, so our board feels like it would be appropriate, if an increase is warranted, to stay within the original allowable fee.
Okay.
Not to increase it to the new fee.
thank you for clarifying that.
Are there any additional questions?
I got one more, Kate.
Oh.
Yeah. So going on to page 14. So when I think of a mobile home, I think of affordable housing. So,
Which slide are you on?
it shows 14, maximum allowable impact fee right there at the bottom. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right there, yeah. So, when I look at that mobile home fee, I would think that that's kind of like affordable housing, right? I mean, that's a lot of money, I mean, for a mobile home. And, I mean, I can see single family, multifamily, those numbers look okay, but the mobile home, what was that based on?
So what we do is we look at the data, whether it's a school fee or, let's say, a park fee. We look at the demographics of the community. In some cases, we find that a mobile home behaves demographically the exact same way as a single-family house in terms of their persons per housing unit, their housing size, right? And in those cases, we combine single-family and multi-home or mobile home in the same definition. In other communities, we find, particularly where affordable housing is an issue, that when mobile homes behave differently demographically in terms of either having lower household size or generating fewer students, we will separate them out so that their fee is less than being lumped into the same category as a single-family unit. So that's what we found here, which is why mobile home is a separate land use or residential land use category. Now, State Impact Fee Act does allow jurisdictions some discretion over fees related to housing units that are affordable, and I believe that the York County ordinance has some measures in there to address that.
But this is the fee that you came up with. right?
Yes, this is the fee that we came up with.
Okay, have we exhausted our questions, or do we have more?
That's it for now.
I would like the opportunity to submit additional questions, since we just received the packet today. I would rather have some time to review, if it's appropriate to ask.
Can always ask. Do you want to make a motion to that effect, or?
Sure, I would like to make a motion to allow Planning Commission time to review the presentations as presented, and to come back either at the next meeting or before with, we could submit questions ahead of time that might still exist.
Diane, as I recall, it's 30 days, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
30 days?
30 days.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I don't think the intention this evening was to be able to actually get an approval from the planning commission. I think there was time in the schedule to be able to have them answer some questions and come on back at the next meeting. So I don't think that's going to be a problem to come back with some addressed questions. I think that was the intention for not expecting a vote tonight.
So if we
We
voted
came back
to
at the next,
delay
yeah,
and set a deadline for ourselves to submit questions, say, within the next 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can come to me and I can give them to the school district to provide responses and we can do that.
Okay.
They
Thank
can
you.
come back in September and give a response.
I think that's what we did last time.
It is.
We
That's
did.
what we did the last time,
Right.
yes.
So would you like to make that motion?
Do we need a separate motion for that?
To delay? Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to, are we calling it delay?
Defer the,
Defer, yeah, defer,
To
delay.
defer any decisions or recommendations at this point and provide a 2-week notice of any additional questions that might still exist prior to the final review. Does that make sense, since we don't have an attorney here?
Right, so there's a motion on the table to delay the vote and to give the planning commission a 2-week time frame to submit additional questions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. So moving on to the preliminary plat for Riley Cove. Weeks Development Group is requesting preliminary plat approval for 27 single-family lots. The subject property is zoned Rural Development 1 and is identified as tax map number 56500000014, Council District 2.
Good evening, Marion Ray, zoning planner. Tonight is a revision from a preliminary plat you saw back in December. So I'll go through the aerial here. The vicinity, it is on Highway 274 north of Pole Branch near the state line. See, it's zoned RUD1, is surrounded by large lot zoning designations residential. And here's the change they made. Once they got into doing the civil engineering plans, they discovered that the stub out on Finnegan's Way there, the cul-de-sac was not going to work the way they had shown it on the preliminary plat. So they had to flip it, basically, which took up too much space. That proposed tree save area underneath the knob of the cul-de-sac was supposed to be a lot. So they ended up switching tree save and the lot. It wasn't going to be tree save in the little park area. It was going to be graded open space. So it ends up being null on tree save. But it was a significant enough change, we wanted to bring it back through the revision process. It's zoned RUD1, so they aren't required to have buffers or open space. So anything that was there is kind of a bonus. One thing that is significant about this one is the tree save is platted separately. So it kind of becomes, it's an HOA protected tree save area. The number of lots has not changed. It's the same acreage. The tree save was reviewed by Peter, our landscape architect, to make sure everything was kind of apples and oranges or apples and apples kind of thing. I'll go back through the findings that we had, the same findings. It's going to be served by private well and septic. They meet the 1 acre minimum lot size. We'll need a permit to construct from DES for each lot before final plat. It's a single-family residential. It's an allowed use. The maximum density is 1 unit per acre. This development is 0.53 units per acre. And at 27 lots, a TIA was not required. The development's accessed from state-maintained Highway 274. That stub out from Finnegan Way there is what caused the problems, but it does have future connectivity to the west, and sidewalks are not required due to RUD1. Again, the buffer and the open space was not required to the zoning designation, but that platted separately 20% tree save. It has been reviewed again, the tree survey and the tree save area. It is compliant with code, so staff recommends approval.
Thank you.
Hey, Mary Ann.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, are there any questions? Go for it.
You may not know this, but how many grand trees were affected by the relocation?
With the relocation into the open space area there weren't any the grand trees that were there were already going to be affected because it was supposed to be graded. So it's just kind of switching out an area. I don't think they're saving any additional grand trees due to the landscaping or the grading they're going to have to do for the cul-de-sac bulb.
So therefore, I guess this doesn't, we don't have to worry about grand tree mitigation, right? I mean,
No.
it's,
It's apples
there
and
wasn't,
apples.
apples to apples, there wasn't any, okay.
Any additional questions? No? If there are no additional questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to rezoning 25-19. Mr. Pytor requesting to rezone a 2.8 acre parcel from RUD to LI. The subject parcel is located on Saluda Road in Rock Hill. And the property is referenced as tax map number 605-0000021, Council District 5.
Good evening, Thomas Newman, Long Range Planner. Good to see everybody. So, 2519, looking to go from RUD to light industrial. So, you can see by the aerials, this is a characteristically quite rural space in the county, just off of Saluda Road, kind of south end of the county in general. And so the applicant is looking to allow a trucking operation on this lot. You can see there's already a trucking operation present in these aerials. There are 3 structures, many of them vacant. And this is actually a code enforcement case. It was found in violation, being inconsistent with the zoning district, as it's not a laydown yard and cannot host, park, or store commercial vehicles as it has been. So you can see some images from the lot. Very evident there is, in fact, commercial truck parking on the lot. So it is currently zoned rural development. It's surrounded by quite a bit of AGC. You see there is some more large lot residential zones to the north. And so some zoning history for some context on this space. Of course, it was originally zoned rural development. And then 2000, it was rezoned from rural development to ID. And then in 2015, it was rezoned from ID back to rural development. Is in 2019, the applicant actually purchased the property, and in 2020, there was a rezoning denied for it to go to BD2. So given all of this, and given the trucking operation began 2019, 2020, it does not qualify for a grandfather status. And just a reminder that the request is to go to light industrial currently. So future land use, when things are kind of abutting here, it's good to look at both. So we have rural residential on the other side of Saluda and single-family residential on this east side. Generally, both are looking for large lot detached residential space. Given all this, staff is going to recommend denial of the request, not consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use map. So there are some provisions, especially within single-family residential, for commercial and businesses to be centered on intersections. But the intersections that this is associated with aren't considered major. And the requested land use, the proposed land use, doesn't befit any services or amenities that would serve the nearby community. So it doesn't qualify for that provision. The trucking operation, is within LI, and of course, any industrial district kind of comes with some more intensive uses potential on the lot. And in the area, there are just no other light industrial zones. So it could be considered spot zoning. Any questions for staff?
The buildings that are there, do we know when they were there? Because it states they were never residential, right?
So one of them is a vacated manufactured home. I don't know the residency status of that one. The other two, one of them is an old gas station that had been converted at some point. One of them is a garage. There was a textile industry out of there at one point. The property has been many, many things in the past. Unfortunately, I don't know the specifics on hand, but I could certainly.
So for it to be used in the RUD designation, those buildings would probably have to be demolished, would you say? Or could they be converted to residential?
So I think Diane could actually speak better to this.
Yeah, the ones that are there right now, the other two buildings, they can be used for storage. So the person can live in the manufactured home, or they can remove that home and build a new home and utilize those buildings for just a garage or storage, that kind of a thing. So that's how they would be used.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
I'll second that motion. So there's a motion and a second to deny. Is there discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Let's see, moving on to rezoning 25-33. Kyle Christopher, Carolina Capital Properties LLC, requesting to rezone a 5.88 acre parcel from UD to RSF 30. The subject parcel is located at 124 Benson Road in Rock Hill, and the property is referenced as tax map number 69400000177, Council District 5.
So 2533, South Benson Road is looking to go from urban development to residential single-family 30. Benson Road's kind of this cut-through from between Leslie Highway and Anderson Road. And the applicant is proposing to subdivide this existing parcel into 3 separate lots and then build 2 different residences on each of them. You can see this area is primarily residential, a little bit of vacant space as well. And a lot, as far as the lot sizes go, this one is quite large compared to its neighbors. So it is currently zoned urban development. You can see this is kind of a patchwork of that kind of single-family presence and urban development here. And to better express the land use of the UD parcels, I put together this quick land use map. Anything with a C is actually commercial use, that with an R is residential. You can see this area, despite it being UD, is primarily residential in use and function. So our future land use shows this area as neighborhood residential. Of course, we're looking for duplex, triplex, all those attached housing types for higher density and walkability. And we're going to recommend approval of the request. And while it's not consistent with the comp plan future land use map, again, because neighborhood residential is looking for that higher density residential space, RCF 30 is a little bit less intense than what should be expected here. But given the request to divide up the parcel and give us some smaller lot sizes, it'll actually bring that space more in line with the character scale of everything in the general area. And of course, it will remove another legacy UD district from the map. Any questions for staff?
Yeah. So along Benson Road, so they want to divide it into 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they divide it into 3 and they're owned by the same person, the only thing is if they sell those 3, if they develop it, sell 1 or 2 of those 3, are they gonna all 3 have driveway access to Benson Road?
Yes, they would have to. I suppose that they could apply for an easement between the 3 of them, but the backside of the lot is heavily wooded and there's a pond, so I assume that they would have access on Benson Road. They don't have specific site plan for us. This is just the intention. And given that it's going to be zoned to residential single-family 30, the smallest lot they can make is 30,000 square feet. So that is what we expect. That would give them enough space and enough frontage onto Benson Road for that.
So, well, the intent is to have 3
That's right.
driveways out to Benson Road, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, to that very question, if you look at the lot, and those 2 that are not within the red, are those 2 properties owned by someone else?
Yes.
Okay, because to that very question, wouldn't they have to get a variance or something to get 3 different driveways out to Benson? Because I'm just trying to visualize, since they didn't give you any, how else would they do it? Wouldn't that there have to be an easement onto one of those properties? Or even if you took the biggest piece and just drew that line straight, that's 1 lot, and you created 2 over here, there's not enough road frontage.
Plenty.
They don't,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's-
it's supposed to be equal size.
271 feet.
Yeah.
271 feet
Mhm.
in that section that goes beyond those 2 parcels from that to the edge, they have plenty of road frontage to create 2 lots.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just measured it.
Onto Benson?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
they have plenty of road frontage there.
Oh.
And then you could have
271
a third
feet.
driveway on the other side.
Yes, they'll have, where the one house right there, they'll have a driveway there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the part further north, they can get 2, they have 271 feet, so they have plenty of road frontage to be able to have 2 more driveways.
Okay, maybe the scale just.
Scale is different, so I just went ahead and, like, I'm gonna go ahead and measure that. And,
Okay.
yep,
All right,
271,
well, okay. That answers that?
there you go.
I don't have a question, but thank you for that, right there. That's nice to see. When it's, kind of a hodgepodge, it's helpful to see the percentage of residential versus commercial in sort of a visual way. So thank you.
I agree. Very helpful.
I do have one question, if I might. You asked about those 2 lots that were kind of encircled. If you look at page 45 of 86, the vicinity map shows in that little right-hand corner, crosshatched for the tract that we're talking about, and then crosshatch for track 2,
On the corner.
which is, I guess, C on the map? Is that common ownership, or is that somebody else?
I'm not sure I understand. Could you repeat that?
The blue C, right there, not, yeah, that one, not the one across the street. That one there in the vicinity map that's, I don't think you have a copy of that. But R is crosshatched and C is crosshatched in the packet.
Talking about on
It
page
might be,
45?
The
the
reference for.
crosshatching on the vicinity map usually means it's in a different jurisdiction.
You seem to-
So that might be part of Rock Hill.
That's just on the, I don't know, that's on the black, I don't know what that is showing.
Oh, thanks, thanks, Kate. Okay, I understand. All right, I got it.
That's on the black.
I was looking at? Did you see?
So it doesn't have anything to do with this request.
I was just saying,
Okay.
you asked if this one, either of these were common ownership. but-
Yeah, according to, yeah, in that little vicinity map, it does appear to be included, yeah.
But it's, that's just their plat.
City map on the black.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to rezoning 25-34. We have Felon Bennett Development, Lakemont Properties Investors LLC, requesting to rezone a .07 acre parcel from UD to LI. The subject parcel is located at 3643 Foothills Way in Fort Mill, and the property is referenced as tax map number 723000044.
So case 2534, looking to go from urban development to light industrial. This is roughly 3,000 square feet, just off I-77. You can tell we're up near Carowinds. So the intention of the applicant is to rezone this little nested subject parcel. That was originally, it was a lift station up until it was sold by the county in 2023. So it's just this little hang-on. But the other parcel here, 723079, is already zoned for light industrial. So the intention is to have them both zone the same and re-aggregate them. There's really nothing going on in this lot. It's just a little vacant, unused
station.
lift station.
That's pretty straightforward.
So I georeferenced the plat and put it over our parcel layer just to kind of get an idea of where this little parcel is relative to the proposed development. And you can see it's kind of integral to what they plan to do, kind of making up their main access way there. So the zoning district, as to be expected with most near I-77, a lot of this is light industrial, urban development. Again, you can see where Carowinds is with that outdoor amusements. Future land use, again, what to be expected from I-77, that corridor employment, where we're looking for those industrial and commercial uses that benefit from proximity to it, to the interstate. And it is within community center, and that's mostly there, again, because of the presence of Carowinds. So we recommend approval. It's consistent with the comp plan, future land use map. It befits the land use types and character to be expected within the designation. It's going to allow the nested parcel to be integrated for more cohesive development and removes another legacy UD district from the map. Any questions for staff?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, moving
You took away my only question. Why is it so small?
Yeah.
Moving on to rezoning 25-35, Tim Heline, Mickline LLC, Equity Trust Company. Tim Heline, Charles Sipe, owners, requesting to rezone 6 parcels that total 5.4 acres from RMX 10 to GC. The subject parcels are located along Hands Mill Highway at the intersection of Concord Road in York. The properties are referenced as tax map numbers 553, 0000017, and 018, and 030, and 021, and 023, and 024, and 030. Council District 2.
Two.
All right, 2535, looking to rezone about 5.5 acres of 6 parcels to general commercial from RMX 10. This is, kind of at the intersection Concord and Hands Mill. It's north of Allison Creek, PD area, south of 5 Points. The proposal is to build a mixed-tenant commercial development for restaurants, retail, daycare, and many other business-type uses. You can see the plan on the right. A lot of the business buildings will be roadside with parking behind. And the idea, again, is to kind of create this cohesive development where they all share access and will limit access onto Hands Mill Highway in that way. So it's currently zoned RMX 10, kind of everything in this crook between Hands Mill and Concord is. Other side, you have RUD, and you do have a presence of general commercial and industrial development on the other side of Concord Road. This is mapped just to kind of show some other non-residential uses up and down Hands Mill and right around the corner on Concord. You've got landscape supplies, you got office uses, you have a fire station, a daycare, boat and RV storage, a salon, as well as some expected commercial development attached to, again, that Allison Creek PD at the bottom there off Cannonball Run. So future land use, this whole swath is generally single-family residential where we're looking for detached single-family homes. But again, it does have provisions for commercial development at major intersections. And as such, staff will recommend approval of this request, seeing as it's consistent with the comp plan future land use map because of that clause where, that Concord and Hands Mill is a signalized intersection, and the expected land use types will provide services, amenities to nearby residences. It will aggregate a lot of those properties into cohesive development that will limit access onto Hands Mill Highway and removes existing residential driveway access points off Hands Mill. Any questions for staff?
Oh, good, John.
I have a question. Is the proposal to create one lot from these 6, or how has this been presented?
Dan, do you know?
They likely will. They're not required to.
Okay.
It may be some lot reconfiguration based upon how they might set the tenant structure. But I would imagine there will be some reduction of lots. But whether it goes just to 1, I don't really know for certain.
Okay.
On page 69, it shows on Hands Mill, it looks like it's got 1 exit or 1 access point.
Mhm.
So right now, they've got what? 4 driveways going out into Hands Mill, roughly?
That's about right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about right.
So, okay. I guess my question is, what's the, what would be the maximum? I guess the maximum number that they could ever have going on in Hands Mill with what they have right now? Or would it be less than that?
It'll be definitely less than that. And so once they come in here to redevelop the property, they'll have to be able to meet all separation requirements from SADOT.
Right.
So because of that, it'll be greatly reduced. That's why they're just showing the 1 on Hands Mill, and that's the benefit. And how we like this, when you bring them all together at one time, you can develop as a cohesive package. And so to limit those access points, so they'll probably just get the 1 on Hands Mill and then 1 on Concord.
Yeah, and I was going by with what John was asking, if this is gonna be a contiguous
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's all to be developed together.
And then for sure we'll have the one out Concord Road, most likely.
Most likely,
Yeah.
yes.
On the back here, there is a house. And I see that there's drives and parking lot, I mean, I know it's just a picture. But what I'm concerned with is, this is a residence, and are there any tree save requirements right here and buffers that, because, this parking lot looks like it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
10, 15 feet away from the,
well,
the
certainly,
property line.
it is just a sketch plan. I'm sure that there will be other considerations, but the general commercial requirements for a buffer that abuts a residential zone, it's usually opaque fencing and 10 to 15 feet, I believe, of preserved space, so.
because there's trees there now, right?
Yeah, a lot of it is,
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
there's trees in there's some.
Yeah, not too many.
Are there any tree save? You may have mentioned that, I don't know.
yeah, there will be, yeah, there's always required trees.
Okay. I guess, what is a flex space? What is that? Does that mean that it could change with what they have in there, or what is that?
Well, really, because they don't know the exact tenants, right? So it's just going to be
Okay.
rented space, and so the flex space just gives them the option of not being super specific about
Would
it.
you say that's kind of like, if you have a strip mall and they consider it like storefront, I could come in and say, I want to have this type of business or store, and someone else can come next door and have a separate type, could be a yoga,
Right, right,
business.
that's right.
Yeah, I just-
So, right,
Yeah,
okay.
just wanted to know what the term meant.
Right,
but
okay.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
And if you really squint hard, you can see something about restaurant
Yeah, so,
on that corner
Yeah, this
piece as
is-
well.
I had to pull out my magnifying
For the
glass.
visually challenged, this is not the easiest thing to read.
my glass is busted today, so I can't,
Uh-oh,
yeah.
you need,
Anyways.
you need
So
a,
potentially here, since these are not all combined and they have separate property owners, because there's several listed here, each of these could be a separate business as well, right? If say, this doesn't come to fruition.
Right, so like Diane was saying earlier, the benefit of this being a cohesive development all done at once is, we won't have a bunch of separate access ways, we won't have a bunch of separate, distinct buildings. There's potential for multi-tenant buildings and, kind of confined, singular access ways like this.
And so we don't know if this is all going to be one owner there, because right now it's multiple property owners here.
If I could, right now, it's owned by many names, same people. So it's
Okay.
5 properties owned by one group, and then one by the other, under contract to get that property.
Well,
So at the
Okay.
end of the day, if this goes through, then that sale will happen, and they'll buy that property as well, and they'll own the entire thing. So
Okay.
these are just different trusts and everything, it's all the same person,
Okay,
except for Mr. Side
Good
Piece, the one in the corner, but he's under contract to purchase that property.
okay, thank you.
that's why I was asking about
Yeah. Any additional
combination.
questions? Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion to deny, and here's my rationale. Diane, thank you for putting the graphic together that shows a broader look at 274 right there. My concern is that this today is more of a residential area than anything else. And it's the main access to the nuclear plant and all the homes that are out on that, let's call it a peninsula. My concern is if we consider a rezoning, there's no guarantee, nobody said anything about any deed restrictions. I'm not even sure we could request that at this point. But once it's rezoned, We've seen this before. It could become gas station, it could become bait shop, it could become anything that falls under a by right status. So my motion is to deny at this point. We can have some further discussion if necessary.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there discussion?
Oh, I just have one further question. So what's out there now, looking up at the top corner, I guess the corner going on to, which road is it?
Concord.
Not Concord. Road.
Concord Road and Hands Mill.
That's a residential lot now?
Yes.
Or that's a house?
Yes.
They're all currently residential.
And then when you come further down, this way, the very bottom, those two lots, those are residential homes, lots now, too, correct?
Yes, everything along Hands Mill going south is either vacant or residential.
Yeah, so if you look at the applications, there's two of the parcels have small homes. Everything behind it is rural residential. I mean, we
So
have,
there's no commercial.
Along that
Go back
strip?
to the other map,
Further down.
where the
Yeah.
blue, oh, right there.
You
No,
passed
go
it.
back.
There you go.
Right.
There's no commercial along Hands Mill in this area.
So there are a combination of, there is some industrial, there is some commercial. I didn't add all the color to the map because it would just be an explosion of
The
color,
blue-
but there's quite a
remind me
few
what the
different zones
blue
going on.
is on this?
That's the other.
This is just highlighting other non-residential specific uses.
Oh, non-residential.
Yeah,
the big blue just north of Concord Road is a storage facility.
yeah.
The one above that, that fronts 274, that's a private school, Creative Kids or something. That's an existing business. There are no other commercial retail properties along this strip. My only concern is, and I know the planning department is adamant about trying to keep things continuous, let's say, in terms of how they're developed. But I could see this becoming another 49 if we approve that. There's 36 acres across the street that's for sale right now.
And if you bring traffic
And if
here,
you bring-
someone's gonna say,
Yeah, that's a good location. Plus, I think this is probably, at the end of the day, a council recommendation, and I would hope that they would canvass some of the residents in the area as well, to see what their feeling is about it.
Well, with any rezoning, that's,
True.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's posted and,
public hearing.
yeah.
I guess my only consideration is, I'm thinking when I drive from Newport on Hands Mill over into Clover, at what point do you look at, down on the Newport side, you have commercial,
Yes.
and then one of them we approved not too long ago, Old York in the corner, where there's gonna be a gas station or something.
That's a
there.
huge intersection.
Right.
That's
busy.
for.
I often wonder how they're gonna get in and out of there, but with that corner being there, but you got a bank, you got the DMV,
Mhm.
then you hit this long stretch of where it's residential
Yep.
property.
Yep.
But then you do start to come into an area where there are businesses, probably, and they seem to be more sporadic, not one whole development where it would be multiple usage such as this. And then you get to, I think there's a 7-Eleven, then there's a
There's a couple of businesses.
couple of other businesses, gravel business or something, car lots.
Yep.
So,
That's further up. That's
That's
by
further up.
5 points.
and I guess to, you know, I see both issues. Can you keep it at a minimum where it doesn't become 49? Because 49 is, you know, it's hard to drive and look for something. Like I tell my wife, I'm not a big proponent of GPS. I'm old school. I like to know
Yeah.
and have an idea.
I
But
hear you.
you cannot drive 49 and literally look for
Something.
You've got to
You'll be
just
in somebody's
GPS it
trunk.
and take me there because there's so much stacked
Yeah.
in such a close proximity. You can't drive and watch the road and make it out. You can't. So to your
And-
point, do we prevent it from becoming that? Or,
I just think it has to be planned better.
right.
That's my only point, is that, you know, and you and I had this discussion, Diane, we have an overlay, we know what you guys are, you know, being presented and then ask us to approve, but there doesn't seem to be an overarching plan for 274. And I said, I don't know if that's our responsibility, your responsibility, council's responsibility, or combined responsibility to create an environment and a plan for that road. Otherwise, I mean, look at what happened in Fort Mill. Look what happened between Buster Boyd Bridge and 274. I mean, that's what people have said loud and clear that they do not want. So I guess,
On the flip side, though, and again, just,
Yeah,
you
no,
know, I mean, it is nice to see again, cohesive group of buildings coming in with limited access to the roadway, parking that is
behind the,
behind and
Yeah.
unobtrusive. Plus, let's face it, there are a lot more homes going in right here, right? Off of
Right.
Cannonball Run, and further down.
Campbell Road. Yeah.
Yes. So to have something like daycare, which is hard to find in this area, and restaurants and things like that,
Sure.
which are nice to have, I guess I'm leaning the other direction. So only because I feel like it's well thought out as opposed to a onesie twosie.
Right. You've got 10 entrances onto.
Exactly.
So to your
To me,
point-
that's the frustrating part of overly
Right.
Developing,
congested area,
yeah,
is the
commercial.
multiple times you're stopping to turn in. If I had 9, developers come to me with 20 projects, but they all entered at 2 places, I'd be much more happy than one after the other after the other.
Right.
So to your point, if you're going to approve something, they've gone about it a really thoughtful way to do it.
Yeah.
Limit what's coming out onto Hans Mill and what's going out the other way. It's off the road to some extent, you know.
That's personally how I feel now. I mean, you can question the amount of traffic onto Concord Road that's going to be real close there to an intersection, but I mean, that's just because of placement of the lot. So you're not necessarily always going to be able to avoid something like that. But that's just my 2 cents.
Has there been any feedback from the residents in that area or the home that this butts up to?
So because we are not at the point where we post signs,
They don't
that
know.
the public hasn't been informed,
Okay.
but the word's out. And so, yes, I have had some emails this afternoon from like 4 o'clock on with concerns about this, that you're, like, just some of what you're talking about. John, you received one as well. And so, with concerns about development for the area. And I'm glad you have this conversation here. You're touching all the things we're
Yeah.
trying to talk to you about. And the main thing here is the cohesiveness part of it. This is a planned development. So the plan, the benefit of, one thing, planning and developing are different because we can plan all we want, but if property owners are willing to sell and do anything, plans don't come to fruition. This is an opportunity where the plan says that if you have these certain characteristics, if you can assemble some property to be able to remove points of conflict by having multiple access points, do it at an intersection of major road with a signal already there. So it does check the boxes of what our plan recommends. So I do say that this is a planned process. This is not just, like you were saying, Kate, that we had a property that came for rezoning further down Haynes Mill for a one-off to go to an office, we recommend denial. Because that's when you have problems with your roads, by having one person to the next to the next. This is being able to bring together all those properties together, one access point on Haynes Mill and one on Concord, and that's good planning.
The other could be considered spot zoning, which we were concerned about, the smaller lot. And I go back to my largest concern is rezoning to GC without any restrictions. Because today, it's a restaurant and childcare, which I'm sure both would be welcome. Tomorrow, it's another car wash that we don't need. So I don't know if there's a way to deed restrict it, if that's an option.
Or use?
Well, I
Or
guess
use.
if you look at the way they're planning it, though, most car washes, you want easy access on and
It's right on the
off, and they-
corner.
Well, but if it's up in this development,
There's not gonna be a
okay, perfect example, the Automobile by Carowinds. There's a road off of Carowinds Boulevard
Mhm.
that leads you to it. It doesn't let out onto, what is that, 20, well, no,
Carolina
Carowinds
Park and
Boulevard.
21.
Well, you know where the
And
7,
then there's another road leading you to the road going into Carowinds. So how that all is developed, all of that traffic doesn't let out, each individual business doesn't let out onto Carowinds Boulevard, or what's the other road leading into Carowinds? What's that?
Carolina Parkway or something like that, I
Yeah.
believe it's,
I
yeah.
understand.
But it's like ancillary roads that feed to and from it.
I hear you, and we say the same thing about David Lyle Boulevard, that it makes sense to have a thoroughfare with side streets that you can access the businesses on, you're not constantly turning in. But if you look at, you talked about the 7-Eleven, there's a car wash going around 7-Eleven. It's off Lake Wiley Road and 274. Every other car wash in Lake Wiley is right up on the road. And it's different. I like what they did in Carowinds, because it's not another curb cut, and you have to drive to
Off,
a
right.
reasonable distance
Distance, right.
to that property. Again, yeah, I could see, you look at that corner lot, that could be, in one way, out the other from the car wash. And I'm just throwing that out there. So, Diane, I don't know if we consider a deed restriction, or I don't
think
know
it's-
what to
it's-
recommend
It's
at this
difficult on a multi-tenant development to be able to identify which ones would be inappropriate here. And we aren't, huge fans of that, because you should use them sparingly.
Yeah.
They're going to be detrimental to the neighborhood. And a GC development, they're all the same, and as far as
I
how
know.
it affects. And so I would not recommend it, but if you wanted to put that into your motion, but it's harder because we don't know what's going to be there. And you
So-
might
or
forget
could
a
that be
certain district.
use?
a use.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
These are the
use.
uses, that's what the deed restriction would be, to limit some uses.
So,
Then it gets to be like, it's not an appropriate use of deed restrictions.
So
for
question,
uses.
if we can't get to that level where we're restricting per use, because I can imagine
We've done that.
their challenge, if I have a multi-unit development, how do we say, who's gonna come along and say, I wanna lease this space? Yeah, however, if we approve, how close to this plan can you keep them to where you're gonna have to, it's gonna have to be one development? We can't restrict who you lease to, however, all of these are gonna have to become one,
Mhm.
and it can't deviate from that.
Right,
We
so-
wanna keep it as close to what we are discussing now, one in, one out,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Right, so the provisions to be able to get there, because like you said, we cannot approve the actual site plan. So this is not an approved site plan. It may not even meet the requirements of the ordinance. It's just to give me an idea of what could be there. However, if they were to come in, and let's just say that at the end of the day, it all doesn't work out, and they can only use some of it, if something gets built, they're required to put in an access easement to properties adjacent to that. And so that would then say when the next person comes in, they've got to use that same access point and go through that. So we can still, if by chance this doesn't work out like we'd like it to see happen, the code will limit where they can have their access and require them to have internal access easements to still limit what can go on a 274. So there are safeguards within the zoning ordinance to be able to limit that. As far as the uses go, like you said, it's really difficult. We've done those, or council has had it where they'll have a list of uses, but we're talking about one user coming in to do one thing, and it makes it a lot easier to say, we can just do this.
Yes.
For this one here, that the GC code is vast, and to be able to pick out which is the winner and loser, it's very difficult to do.
If they're all under common ownership, can we request that they be combined? That would make it less likely that a separate lot. Okay.
Yeah, I think that if you have any questions, they are here. If you'd like to ask them questions, that's up to you. It's your provision. If you want to do that,
Would you prefer that?
Sure.
Kate has the authority to do that.
Would you step up and state your name? Your name and address, please, and answer a couple of questions that have come up.
My name's Tim Heline, 1830 Hands Mill Highway, Rock Hill.
Brody Heline, 1830 Hands Mill Highway.
So thanks for letting us come up and talk. I know this isn't normal. So I
It's
started
helpful. Let's put it that way.
acquiring properties there probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And kept going on and going on. And the corner one, if you saw that house that's there now and the deplorable conditions that that family lives in, it's bad. So my wife and I have trusts, and depending what bucket has money, that's what we bought. Like, she's got a company that owns our real estate business, so that is one of the entities. I think I own a couple, and another just owns a couple. And then the corner piece, we have that under contract contingent upon getting our rezoning. So basically, we own them all. I don't physically own the corner one, but we will, and I don't know what bucket will
Is gonna
will
pay
own
for
it at
that,
the end of the day. And what'll most likely, our intent, I live back off of Concord. We know a ton of people back there. Our office is right down on Hands Mill, down probably 3 miles or so. But Duke in there is the largest, I believe, the largest taxpayer in the county. And we've reached out to Duke. We've spoken with their,
Head of Community Relations.
yeah, spoke to him twice, reached out to him again today. He's supposed to get back to us. They're taking a poll on, he said, we went to Duke, said, hey, listen, we want to make this a nice, it's not, we're not, and I promise there'll be no car wash. I'll put that in writing.
Thank you.
So we went to him and said, what do you guys want? And we got told by a senior Duke official that that's not official yet, but he said, we'll get back to you. What I'd really like, they closed down their cafeteria. And they have 155 people, I think, per shift roughly. They said, we would like to see a restaurant there, a locally owned restaurant, not a chain. We want it to be higher end versus lower end because we want our employees to be able to, it takes them a while to punch out a Duke because of all the security. We want them to be able to come down, pick up a sandwich or a breakfast roll or both. We want to be able to take our vendors there for a lunch or for a dinner. We want to be able to use that. And then when we applied for our rezoning application, there's developers and people that watch this stuff. We were contacted within days of a local owner that's got a daycare. And he said, I'd love to put a daycare there. I said, I'd love to see a daycare because of what's coming down the pike. Your map, can you go back to the map that shows the blue? So down here, where the two blues are down by Cannonball Run, and I know this area very, very well. Across from those two blues at Cannonball Run,
On the other side.
Ronnie Montgomery owns that 20-some acres, I believe. It's zoned BD3. He's zoning by right along the old railroad tracks. There's going to be a light. There's going to be a light at Cannonball Run. He's going to be able to punch a road into his 20-some acres. I don't know exactly what it is. I just drove through the subdivision, the D.R. Horton subdivision off of Campbell Road that goes from Campbell to 49. They're putting 5 homes per acre in there.
840 homes total.
That's a density. That's a lot of people. You've got the school, 2,200 kids can go there. That's a lot of cars, a lot of parents, a lot of sporting events, a lot of double trips to school and back. You've got 20-some lots on Concord that are already approved. I believe they're approved. You've got 600-some down on Allison Creek Church, I believe. The land across Concord, that's gonna go through. That's a 36-acre tract and then another 12-acre tract that's for sale. That's, my gut says that's gonna come in here and get residential. You've got all these cars going up and down. Well, Newport's busy. The reason Newport Corner is there because of Lake Wiley. There's no other place to cross the lake, so everybody's got to either cross 49,
Yep.
or up at Belmont, or down 161. I've watched this forever. So all that traffic down at Newport that comes around the turn to go up the lake, it's busier and crap. Well, why would you want, I'm looking at all these new houses and the school and Duke. Why would you want them to go down to Newport to get their daily amenities, whatever those are? Or why do you want to send them up to Lowe's, 49 274, in that traffic congestion to go get their pizza, or go get donuts, or to go to get a bite to eat? Up at 5 Points, where the 7-Eleven is, you got a Harris Teeter coming, you got I think probably 2 more gas stations if I was a Benton guy. Tom Smith's gonna develop his land. With Harris Teeter's gonna come a lot more retail, a lot more traffic. And this, to me, the reason I started buying this and I put it together, because it makes sense to have something there that I'm gonna make, my intent is to make an above average retail place, because I live right there. It's right on the corner. And to answer someone's question about who's gonna own it at the end of the day, can't answer that 100%, but my goal is, because of how I'm older, closer to retirement, all of our shekels are in bricks and sticks and in land. And my goal is to probably own half of it, where I'll be a landlord, and we'll build that flex space. And if I'm already talking to a fella, I'm not gonna tell you who, but he's a local guy that's got 2 restaurants at Lake Wiley, and he's already committed to putting a restaurant there. I might partner with him on that. I might be the landlord and help build it. Don't know, there's moving parts there, but he said, you get that done, he said, I'll put something nice. The middle part, if you pull back that plan, so that's probably about 90% at the end of the day what it's gonna look like, because you're just limited on space. The topography between, you asked about the trees. You know, the topography, we'll probably have to build a wall on that back side. But I think with all the kids, with everything that's there, with all the traffic, it makes a whole bunch of sense to us. And that's why I started acquiring it over the years, was for that reason.
Thank you.
Right now, I think I can build 4, 5, 6. I think I can split this other one. I don't know. I can build 6 homes for sure, or put 6 manufactured homes. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to build 6 homes there and have all those. We have 6 driveways now, and do all that. That makes zero sense with all the traffic that's there.
How about that first lot coming in off Concord Road with the house behind you? That would
So we've talked to
create
them.
a
I made
nice-
an offer trying to buy
Is it?
that, and we're not that far off.
Okay.
What I'm paying for that corner, it's the most I've ever paid for a piece of land. I've bought a lot of land in York and Chester County, but I had to, because this one over here said probably won't have
This
anything
one
get
over
done if I
here.
don't have that whole corner. And I know it looks tight on that corner, but I don't remember how many feet it is from where the drive would probably go out the light. But there's a fair amount of room there. And there's good blockage from that. What's that?
I want to say it was 300.
Yeah.
I think Diane measured.
There's pretty good blockage from that existing house. Matter of fact, I built that. That was the first house I ever built in York County back in the day. And then we sold it and went for sale. Probably 7 years later, my wife, she's way smarter than I am, she says, you need to buy that back. And they wanted 150 more than we sold it to them. I said, I'm not paying that kind of money. I'm not, if you're gonna regret it, you need to buy it back. I go, I'm not doing it.
Thank you very much for the explanation and for the detail. I think that answers some of the questions. Were there any
I can
any
go on and
additional
on. I'm
questions?
passionate about
No,
it.
no, that's.
I know, we're gonna
we
rein
app-
it back in.
We
and,
appreciate, yeah, we appreciate
Yeah, we
your-
do.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to talk so long.
No, you're good. So do we have?
So there was a motion and a second.
I would say, so
correct?
there is a motion and a second. The motion is to deny. We're in the middle of discussion. So we need to vote. Actually, is there any additional discussion? I'll take that as a no. So we need to vote on the motion on the table, which is to deny. So all those in favor of denying? All those opposed? Okay, so do we need to make a positive? Yeah. Let's to cover, yeah. Is there a second motion on the table since that did not pass?
Motion to approve the request.
Okay, and I will,
As stated.
I will second that.
Okay.
Is there any additional discussion? No. All those in favor of approval? Anyone opposed? Okay. And moving on to our last rezoning of the evening, 25-36. York County Council has initiated the rezoning of 14 parcels within the existing residential neighborhood Garrett's Landing and the adjacent undeveloped area from RSF 40 to RMX 20, District 2.
Good evening, everybody. This is a request to rezone from RSF 40 to RMX 20. It's about 30 acres. It's called the Garrett's Landing subdivision outside of Clover. This was actually from council initiated rezoning to allow for the development of Phase 2 of Garrett's Landing subdivision. So I've got a little timeline I want to go over, and we can come back to the map here. But as you can see from the map here, there are some homes that have already been constructed. Then there's these large vacant parts in the back. This would actually be considered with the Phase 2 of Garrett's Landing. And so back in June 2003, a preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission to do 30 detached homes. In 2004, there was a final plat was approved for 10 of those homes. That was Phase 1. And they built those houses, and then it sat there, and nothing else happened. And so in 2020, they submitted a preliminary plat for the second phase to do 20 homes. Within that time period, there were changes in the code, and the minimum lot size was changed as well. So the current lots were existing or non-conforming. There's also been some discussion back and forth between the issue about what is considered vested. The applicant thought it was a vested property. Staff said, no, it's not vested. And so now we're at a point where there was settlement to be done. And so in July 2025, County Council voted to initiate the rezoning for the existing phase as well as Phase 2 to be able to continue the property it was currently developed, as it was intended to be developed. This is all part of the negotiated settlement agreement between council and the applicant of the property. So as you can see, this was submitted to us in 2022 for the Phase 2, and these homes here that are not shown, these were the ones that were already built. This was to do the Phase 2 of the project. Zoning for the area here is mostly RSF 40, as well as 30 next to it. Comp plan for the area is rural residential and single family, and we're recommending approval. Yep.
Diane, I noticed on page 76 that you've got 767 Pine Haven Circle, and it's a bunch of them. And one of the acres on, the .32 acres, you know, that's, of course, that's not meeting the minimum of RMX 20. So is that gonna be combined?
Yeah, I think that was actually intended, that's just, I think, a small piece at the top right here, to be combined with the property up north of that, which was supposed to have happened originally, but apparently it didn't happen. But they're gonna combine that small piece with the property to the north. They're
Okay.
owned by the same people.
So it meets the
Yes.
RMX?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is the reason we've also included Phase 1 is because there's still some properties that are vacant in Phase 1?
No, it was to, once again, is to make the entire development all the same zoning district.
Okay.
And so to go ahead and do everybody, to put them all into RSF 30, I believe it is. What are we going to? I forget. RMX 20.
RMX 20.
And so those properties are non-conforming as they are right now. With the lot changes, just go ahead and do it, everybody, make them all one zoning
Okay.
district.
And
Okay, so the
you'll
current-
have to notify those homeowners.
Yes,
of-
yeah, actually, it's going out, I think, today or tomorrow.
Okay.
So the current properties there that are occupied, they are non-conforming to RSF 40?
Correct, because they, at the time when they were developed previously, that lot size was allowed. And there's been a change to the code, and that lot size is no longer allowed in that zoning district.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, Diane. Any questions on the
On your favorite.
rezoning cases? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Have a good night.